You're watching the Fayetteville Government Channel. Up next, full coverage of the latest meeting of the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board. The Parks and Recreation Advisory Board is composed of citizen volunteers and meets on the first Monday of each month. The board advises the City Council and city staff on issues that affect the city's parks and recreational programs. And now, the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board.
Welcome to the Parks and Rec Advisory Board meeting for August 6th. As you can see, we're all a little sweaty. We've been on a site visit to the proposed street crossing at MLK for the trail. So we're going to kind of pick up where we left off. We had a little orientation from Matt about where the proposed trail would go. So we'll go from there. So Matt has already gone. Do you have more to cover with this, Matt?
Yeah, I do. I just have some more graphics here to kind of show you. Make that work. There we go. Okay, just to kind of show you the FAT plan, Fayetteville Alternative Transportation Trail Plan. Has this on here. It's kind of small, but here it's number 53 on there. So it just shows it's on the master plan. I mentioned the Razorback Regional Greenway, the 36 mile, and this is part of it. It's not part of the Tiger 2 funded portions, which are from Springdale and Rogers, but it's part of the overall project. So, and then I mentioned the design is funded half and half by Home Depot Foundation and the Walton Family Foundation, and then the construction funding is going to come through. It's through North Star's original plan as part of the restoration. So we're getting really a great thing. There's basically no city funds. A little schedule. We've been in schematic study has been completed, and Garver does have a recommendation too. That's on what crossing, and we have that in your packet. And then we'll preliminary design, and then we'll try to get to final design there. 150 days. So this is the three options, and you probably have it in your packet too. But that just shows the overall three options. I mentioned the tunnel, bridge, or at-grade crossing with signal, but we've really found out through the highway department that that's not as possible because of the warrant. Some cost on each option. Here, 1.6 for the tunnel, 960 for the crossover, and 1.3 for the tunnel. And this includes all the trail too on those costs. So it's an overall project cost if we went one of those routes. Mentioned some of this at the meeting. The bridge, minimum clearance is 20 feet. Mentioned the scale, large scale, may not be appropriate for the surrounding neighborhood. The fencing, we talked about 360 fencing around it. But it does eliminate the conflict, which we're wanting to do, is provide a safe way to get across MLK. Long approach ramps, they have shows 310 feet here, which also includes the ramp, the landings for ADA.
So of the three options, one of the options is actually off the table because the state highway department says this.
It kind of is, yeah. I mean, it really is.
Okay. Because
we can't put a signal there. They let us put a crosswalk, but we don't feel like that would be a prudent thing to do without any kind of signal. So here's the at-grade, like you mentioned. I wanted to mention too, Rob Sharp, local architect, he put together a really neat concept for how it could be a streetscape design, sort of enhance the streetscape and have this crossing. Some things wouldn't allow, but we took it to the highway department and showed it to them, and some things wouldn't be allowed, but streetscape improvements could still happen, but it's not part of this funding. This funding is for the Razorback Regional Greenway. We couldn't really branch out and do a whole like College Avenue out here. I hope someday we can, because that would be just an amazing thing for that part of town and tie the city together. So, but our tunnel, if we choose that option, doesn't prevent that from happening later. It just doesn't fund it because it's a different funding source. So here's the below grade tunnel options. So some of the disadvantages to this could be perceived as unsafe, prone to graffiti. It does eliminate conflicts, shorter ramps, mentioned that. Minimal visual impact for the neighborhood. It's just kind of sunken under there, not showing up. We already have 4 tunnels on the trail system with pretty good overall success. Overall, real bad problems. And wanted to mention too, it would be put in for a trail tunnel. A lot of our other tunnels were drainage structures, and that we retrofitted them and used them for the trail. And so along with that comes some water issues, because that's what they were built for. So whenever we get to build one from scratch, it's usually a little better results. And an example would be out at Garland, where the new Meadow Valley Trail has a pretty long tunnel. That one's 270 feet. This one would be much shorter. We're looking at 140 feet long. So it's another advantage. Just wouldn't be quite as long to get through, as far as some of the issues with the unsafe and those fear, I guess, issues. But
where that tunnel comes out of the south side of the tunnel, where the trail turns to the west,
right here,
an existing driveway. Did you say that was going to be closed? Did I hear you right?
There's one driveway right. I don't know if you see my cursor. There's one right there, and that one would be closed. But this one would need to remain open. It's for service trucks, so they would be crossing the trail there. But we think we can do it in a safe way that it wouldn't be every day. And then their main way to get in will be right here, where it already is.
Right.
So really, they have 1, 2, 3 in that section. They'd just be losing one right in the middle, and they acted like they could live with that. It wasn't the end of the world for it. This is the new bridge we mentioned. The old trestle bridge is sitting right here, and we were originally planning on using it because it's just really cool to use it, but the structural analysis on it came back, and it's really, really poor. Basically has to be rebuilt anyway, and so we feel like we can more cost efficiently put in one of our standard weathering steel kind of bridges, and actually really help the alignment. It's a much better, smoother alignment. So there's kind of two advantages there.
You know, I might mention too, for those citizens who do not want to utilize the tunnel, they can go on down to South College and cross the street at the light and come back. And that's the same way as we have with I-540 tunnel, is people can head on down Greg Street and avoid that tunnel for those that do not like to go in.
It's an alternate route. Yeah, I think I have a map that shows that a little bit better. I'll see if I can show that. Public meeting, we really tried to do a lot of public outreach on this. So on April 30th, we had a meeting right there where we met earlier on the Greenhouse Grill, and then June 7th, we had one at the Senior Center, and 35 the first time, 40. And then we had a comment period time when people could send in emails online, or we had a little form just to kind of ask which you like best. Basically, we were asking which kind of crossing you like best. And you can see here, the at grade was at 18 respondents, below grade the tunnel was 50, and then above grade with the bridge was 14. So, you know, pretty sizable in favor of the tunnel. Garbage recommendation matches that. Bridge not recommended due to cost and impact on adjacent properties. At grade, the warrant problem, and then the tunnel. Due to the safety, feasibility, and overwhelming public support, allows most value for the money provided to the city. Oh yeah, here we go. This is what Connie was mentioning. If you look at this map, there's already, what's shown in sort of this pink color is an existing sidewalk, existing crosswalks there in front of Walgreens with pedestrian heads. And we had talked about tweaking those a bit better, maybe try to make them a little bit better, because we had comments that the cycle length was a little longer. We talked about that active transportation. John, you might remember more on that.
Yeah, Mr. Gullick said that. It was no problem to get the signal to, just apparently you can't cross in time. If you're on foot, so that's not an issue.
Yeah, so he was going to look at that. And by adding some new sidewalk where, along kind of in front of O'Reilly Automotive there, right now there's kind of an asphalt strip right behind the curb, but we don't even call those sidewalks. They're used for it. But there's room back there to push a new sidewalk through, an existing sidewalk in front of the Advanced Auto, I think it was called, and then tire track. So just a few little pieces, and we can really connect a sidewalk there that you can see comes right back and meets the trail here at 9th Street. So we felt like, you know, okay, if you just really don't feel comfortable in a tunnel, then there is an option. And actually, it might be a little bit shorter, mostly for pedestrian, but cyclists can ride on the sidewalk. So the downside to using this as the trail is it doesn't do anything to connect that Zalagi trail. And we kind of feel like it just wouldn't be as nice of a trail when you're going along a busy road, and there's curb cut issues and turning, things like that.
Now, you said that there would be another light crosswalk across school
That's right here at 9th Street.
at night? Okay.
And we're still kind of working on exactly where this is going to happen. It might possibly be right in here. But that would be what's called a pedestrian hybrid beacon. As a trail user, you'd come up and push a button, and it would activate some warning lights that they do more flashing than a typical light. We actually don't have that in the city yet. It would be kind of a new thing. But basically, they stop the cars, give you a walk symbol, and then cross, count down, and then the main difference is when there's no one there, it's not lit up. It's just turned off. It's turned off. When somebody comes up and activates it, it'll turn on and stop the vehicles and let people cross. I mentioned there's good sight lines there, and about the traffic count's about half of the amount of traffic. So we haven't heard a lot of concern there. I think some people wanted to see if we could just do a tunnel there as well, because it's nice to cross both. There are some issues with the ramp links and this existing creek and the way that the drainage is there to fit that in. And I looked at it; it's pretty challenging. So we feel like with the lower traffic that this would be sufficient with the signal at that location. And then just to let you know, we did a lot of research on tunnels and things, and this study was done by the Trails Conservancy, and they studied 78 different tunnels, and just some information that sometimes it evokes images of dark spaces where vagrants linger or illegal activities, but overall they found it's such a tremendous community asset to encourage and safely accommodate greater trail use and safely do it. So that's what the results of their study of 78 different tunnels around the country showed. So that's Narrowscapes. That's our next project. So that's kind of my presentation.
Okay, any other questions?
You mentioned
Discussion.
additional sidewalks, improvements to sidewalks. Is that wrapped into the same project, or is that something we have to pursue down the road?
We had talked about, I don't think like I mentioned, that funding is pretty specific for the Razorback Regional Greenway. What we had talked about doing is just getting it put into our sidewalk plan for maybe even next year. It's not that complicated of a construction. Would require a highway department permit, but we're going to need to do permits for these other ones, and we thought about just rolling that into the permit. That way we'd already be approved. Our guys, they'll be able to approve it dedicated to building sidewalks, so they could come in and do it. And so they would just be scheduled in. That's a good question, but
Excuse me.
Aubrey?
Have you totally rejected studying the existing bridge at the 8th Street right away across Powell Spring?
yeah, and where Aubrey's talking about is a little bit off this map, and I don't think I have a map that shows that far. It's right near the parking lot in Walker Park. That's north of what's the BMX area, I guess. And there's a building there owned by the school district that was
The old ROTC building,
oh, yes.
and it connected to the parking lot.
There is a bridge there, and it's fairly indecent. I mean, it's a good shaped bridge. It's fine. The downside to it is that right now that EMS is using it for training, and they completely fill up with that parking lot. And so I met with them, and they said it would really hurt their ability to do what they need to do there. The other thing I started looking at, the advantage of using that bridge is to have less impact on the creek, and that's what Aubrey's after. But actually, by routing the trail up along the creek, kind of we have to follow sort of the creek zone. We end up going along the creek and then kind of back. Whereas just crossing it with a bridge, and we're looking at doing a bigger span bridge, we can just get across it, and it's less impact overall.
Well, have you changed the site of where the new bridge would go? Is it, the way that shows, it's going very near the Spout Spring channel, paralleling it, the trail when you leave 9th Street.
Spout Spring, yes.
You're going to cross Spout Spring, but that's Tanglewood. It's parallel.
It's north of Tanglewood, so upstream from the confluence of Tanglewood.
Yes. How far do you think?
Oh, maybe 400 feet, 400 to 500 feet upstream.
That couldn't be that far.
Maybe 2, I don't know.
200 a hole.
I'm just guessing, John.
You and I have talked about before, if you go down into the combined creeks, just downstream from where the confluence is, and you look up there, even in the wintertime right now, I make pictures that I could tell people are on the buffalo, because the two streams come together. They're beautiful, they're vegetated, except seeing the concrete that's washed downstream past and a few things in the stream bed and the old pipes with the sewers and water lines have been changed out. But it's a beautiful spot, and that's one that would be really nice for people to be able to see if they choose to get down there and look around the real nature part of it. So I'm
Yeah,
just
it's
hoping
really
that
pretty.
ridge won't be in that view.
Yeah, be far enough upstream.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're hoping we can do it pretty minimal impact, and complying with the streamside protection ordinances, and
Well,
then
they're
crossing
concerned.
and clearing the floodway.
My other concern is that is floodplain where you're going across to make the road, the trail out to the because we've all, or a lot of us have seen it actually flooding pretty deep, so.
Down in that same part by Walker Park?
Yeah, I'm saying that where you leave 9th Street, you're in the floodplain, not just a repairing zone, but an actual floodplain that floods folks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we looked at that in Garver, and we'll be looking at that, making sure we don't cause any kind of a rise. We'll be doing no rise.
It could be a raised bridge all the way through there, so that it's like a causeway.
Yeah, let that water flow through.
Naturally, yeah, and leave the vegetation. It would be a show place. Because
Yeah.
So
think it
many
will be. It's
places
nice
are not aesthetically pleasing once you build a trail because you lost the vegetation or the red dirt and so forth has crushed the tree roots. We've seen examples all over town, and they vegetate back up in the light.
Super. Anything else? Any other discussion? Okay. Do we need to make a decision on recommendations, Connie?
Yes,
Get back here.
please, because after this, Matt will forward it on to the street committee who will have the final decision. on the
Okay, and
decision.
staff's recommendation
The time.
is the tunnel. Okay.
Motion, we accept staff's recommendation.
We have a motion? Second. Second. We have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation to use an underground tunnel for the Martin Luther King crossing. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. Motion carries.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Matt.
Appreciate it.
Good job.
Okay, next up is approval of our July 2nd meeting minutes. Any additions, deletions, corrections from anyone?
There's one correction, it's under section 7. It was mentioned that at the last meeting I said that soccer used Lewis soccer fields year round, and it's really the soccer fields are used, not soccer is used on those fields all year round. So just a little clarification.
Melanie, you got that? Okay. Any other revisions?
Also, Melanie, down just a little bit further. Since Paul said new projects are coming in and only paying $37,000 per acre, if we could just amend that to say it's unlikely the new projects that we've seen have paid $37,000 an acre instead of they are.
Good enough. So Connie, if we make changes to the minutes, can we go ahead and approve it with those changes?
Yes.
Okay.
Make a motion to accept the minutes as changes noted.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the minutes with the corrections or changes. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. Minutes are approved. Okay, next we have, Philip, you have an update from the Botanical Garden Society?
I do have a little bit of an update. There's a few things going on at the Botanical Garden. The big issue here that the Botanical Garden Society is coming across is the actual agreement with the city. It's not a leasing agreement. It's really, through their audit, they've kind of done some research, and it's really more of an operating agreement. So the concerns that they're having in in particular is some of their fundraising to get money that goes into building structures that, if the botanical garden leaves, reverts back to the city. It's roughly the way that the whole agreement is set, is done. Also, another concern is they're trying to get the farmers market has requested to use part of that lot just south of Botanical Gardens for the farmers market. And under the standing agreement, they can't sublease. It has to go through the city. So right now they're in the process of negotiating that with the city, and I've gotten some emails saying that they thought that it was approved, but I'd really like to have the meeting and to make the discussions before I say anything further about that. But that's kind of what's been going on in the Botanical Garden. There's also some upcoming events. Let's see, August 23rd is Still on the Hill free concert. It's 9 p.m. Picnics and lawn chairs, and drinks will be sold by Botanical Garden. And then September 9th, which I believe will have Labor Day, the annual meeting is at 4 p.m. for the members of the Botanical Garden. And on September 13th is Chefs in the Garden. And we can have the other ones at the next meeting.
Super. Thanks. Any questions for anyone on that? Great. Okay, up next we have parkland dedication. Allison, I think you're taking us through this.
We have a parkland dedication that actually came through originally maybe in 2010?
I think so.
9? Somewhere in there.
09.
09. And it's the project, the location is the same, but the units have been reduced significantly. It's just east of Frisco Trail and north of Wilson Park. And they're proposing 12 single-family units on that narrow strip that's hatched there. And they're requesting to pay money in lieu, which would be $11,520. Staff is also recommending money in lieu because Wilson Park and Skull Creek and Frisco Trail are all right there. And we have Jeff Bates here with the engineer if you guys have questions of him for the development. But
What was the original count of number of units? Do we know?
80 or so. It was 2 4-story condos.
Yes,
buildings,
it was pretty dense. And the original recommendation back then even was money in lieu. There we go. You can see the 12, the tan colored units are
Yeah. Does everybody know where this is? Everybody have a good idea? It's just north of Wilson Park.
Is this a street that bisects Lafayette behind that parking lot there?
It's actually along Frisco Street.
Yeah.
The low water bridge, the little low water bridge is like right in here.
Oh.
This is Prospect Street
Yeah,
where
right
the
on this
loop
one.
on the trail
Parallels
is.
the train tracks. Just going right
Yeah,
beside the train tracks.
it's this little hatched area.
Did we look at this not too long ago?
Yeah, probably a year ago.
It's been at least a year, I think.
That's Wilson Park. And it's Skull Creek. This is the project. That's great.
They still including the sidewalk connection to the trail?
Same kind of right here.
I'm sure
think
the
so.
city makers.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right down here.
I think the developer wanted to anyway, just to make it more appealing.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
That might be a plus to
Well, I
take.
can see it on there.
Because it will be connected.
I'm not sure if I see it.
I think I see it right here.
What is it?
Sidewalk? Oh, I do
The
see it right
sidewalk,
here.
you know, that's one thing that we had talked about is connecting this actually to the trail with the sidewalk, because currently that road doesn't have any sidewalk on it, it's just a old, just asphalt with ditches on sides. So, we'll probably continue to pursue that request. And it sounds like the developer wants to do that too. I'll let you guys.
Okay. Any questions, discussion?
Is there any ramifications to going through once and then going through again?
Well, no, I mean, they have to come back through because they're submitting an entirely new application of planning. If they had been under the original approved application and they just reduced their units, they don't necessarily have to come back to us. But since their project has changed, and I guess the time maybe had expired on it,
Yes.
they have to do a completely new application, which then kicks them back
So
into our
this is
cycle.
new. This is treated just like a new one.
It's treated just like a new one.
Aubrey, you
One
have a question?
question, please, about the things we were building on railroad right-of-ways. I mean, trails for, rails for trails plan came on years and years ago all over the country. And it's a great idea, except at that time there hadn't been, the railroads had just started really seriously going out of service when it started. But now we're talking about light rail in the future. Are we impeding the possibility of a parallel track in areas where we now already have that right of way when we plan some of these things, whether it's a trail or a housing development or something that will be, for instance, with the houses shake too much if the train's right here?
They're outside, it's outside the right of way and the railroad right of way, and the houses are pushed up on Frisco. They have a big green space between the back of the house and the railroad.
Yeah, I'm not certain that that's necessarily something that we would decide as Parks and Rec Board. That'd be more of a planning commission question.
Certainly.
But I understand your comment. Anything else? Okay, I'd accept the motion.
So moved. Second.
So we have a motion to accept staff recommendation to accept money in lieu. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. Okay, on we go.
Thank you.
You're
Thanks,
welcome.
Nick.
Thank you.
Oops.
Go back to the agenda page. Who's next? Number 5 is, oh, Lake Fayetteville Prairie Restoration naming. It's an interesting one.
All right.
Sorry. Bob Falk with the Fayetteville Natural Heritage Association, and you introduced it that we're here to talk about naming the prairie restoration area up there in the northwest is Callie's Prairie. And what I have here on this slide is just a picture of the portion of the park that we're looking at, which is the northeast portion of the park up in the corner. And what I wanted to do today is very briefly talk a little bit about how we identified this as a former upland prairie, talk a little bit about the Henson family that Callie was part of. Mentioned several times that it touches on the Butterfield Trail to the east, the red line to the east, and on the Razorback Greenway, the red line to the west. And then I'll talk about some of these other things as I get further in. And obviously this restoration project is a joint project with the city and Fayetteville Natural Heritage, and I'll talk about that. How did we pick this area as a potential prairie restoration project? Well, several years ago, the Fayetteville Natural Heritage Association got a grant from the Arkansas Forestry Commission to do a green infrastructure plan for four cities in northwest Arkansas: Fayetteville, Johnson, Farmington, and Greenland. And the results of that study are shown in this chart. And in fact, the study has been adopted by the city of Fayetteville as part of the 2035 plan as the definition of the Enduring Green Network. Where did the prairies come from? Well, prairies were one of the habitats that we were very concerned about identifying. This area initially was called Prairie Township, but when you look around, you don't find a whole lot of prairies around here anymore. And what we did is we had a group that went out and looked around for various prairie locations in the area. And I just can't sit down and talk. I can't do it. We looked around for various prairie organizations, and it doesn't show up on this one, so I'll have to point. And we were able to find two examples of wet prairies: Woolsey Wet Prairie, that's become very famous by the wastewater treatment plant, and Wilson Springs, that is very infamous further north. When folks went out hunting for upland prairies, they were able to find two examples, or two remnants. One was over here by the east side wastewater treatment plant, and CH2M Hill has done a fantastic job of restoring that prairie site. And the other one was up here in the very top of Lake Fayetteville. And that's what led us to this particular site and looking at it. When you look at the history of the site, and you go back, and all of the stuff I have on history came from this booklet on flashbacks and there was one that was published in 2011 by David Chapman. And David and Judy Wolchin is here, and she provided some information to David also that's in this book. But if you go back into the early 1830s and you look at this area, you can see here's Clear Creek going through here, and you can see from the county clerk's office there's some prairies that have been hand drawn in. So there were prairies up in that area. Before the Civil War, David was able to reconstruct who actually owned various pieces of property up in this area, and he's put on this where the lake is today, and you can see this northern area up here was owned by Spencer Fine before the war. Spencer was a very important person in the area, but his fortunes turned around and he didn't end up holding on to the land for very long. After the war, we have an early settlement map here, and you can start seeing on this map here, again, is Clear Creek running through here, and you can see Skillman property over here. And now up in this area, you can start to see the Henson name. T.A. Henson is starting to show up. T.A. Henson was born in northwest Arkansas near the
Oxford Bend.
Yeah, Ox Bend.
Sons Chapel area.
And he was born and raised in this area, and he left the area for the Civil War, and when he came back into the area, his wife was reputed, Callie Henson, his wife was reputed to say that I want this farm and I want to live here when she walked through, when they drove by the area. This came from a quote from a family member that was given to this guy Rothrock, who published one of these in 1960 on the area. Callie, well, here's Thomas's family. Thomas died, he bought the land in 1865, and he died in 1885. And here's a picture of his family in 1895 with Callie in the middle and her surviving children at that time. Callie, the one we're interested in naming it after, was actually born in the same community in October 1839. Her father was Albert Gregg, the first postmaster of Shiloh, which was Springdale's post office. And she married Henson in 1857. She was his second wife, left the area for the Civil War, came back after the Civil War, and she lived on the property until May of 1927. And her family kept ownership of the property until the 40s, right before the city purchased the land. I mentioned the Butterfield Trail, which was on the eastern side of it. This is a space you all know, which is where the little pavilion or little concrete area was set out. And on this particular sign here, the newspaper reporter that was quoted talked about how, as he rode through the area, you could see prairie as far as the eye could see. And that was one of the things that drove us in the general direction of wanting to restore this area so that we could get some prairie back in that area. Aerial photograph of the area, 1941, before the dam was built. Clear Creek running up through here. And the Henson property is up in this area. And this is the top part of Lake Fayetteville Park up here. And this is in the area that, in fact, I showed you in the restoration thing. Sanders was a member of the Henson family. It's one of the family names. Isn't that right, Judy?
Well, yes.
Yes, just, all right.
I'll tell you, not all of it's pieced together, but yes.
With the, and you can see this little wash that comes down through here on this side, and you can see the Butterfield Coach Trail on this side, and Powell Road up on this side.
Bob, let me interrupt while you got that up there. On the tract of land that they owned, you see down on this far right corner of great density, well that was their woodlot. And that to this day is still undisturbed woods. And so we consistently, yeah, right there, that whole block of, well, right.
This one over here.
All of that. Yeah,
all of this was their property.
All this was woods. They held that back along the creek. Okay, where the environmental center basically is.
Is that their house?
And
we don't know where their house was.
Well,
David didn't, you might.
Okay. Their house would have been located here. Okay?
Well, you can still see the whole.
Yeah, when you're
The
looking at
cellar.
your sign, yes, and you look directly to the east, you're looking at the Henson Farm that was there for 74 years. Those barbed wires along the old Missouri are their fence, and that old well was their well.
Yeah, neat. So neat.
Yeah.
I always wondered what it was.
Mrs. Henson was going back to this land at, I'm sorry to interrupt here, Mom.
okay.
Going back after the war in the wagon, and she saw this stuff at Clear Creek, and she says, Andy, I gotta have that farm. And he takes her back to the dry land down here on 45, you know, where the Hensons live, and where he was original Pat Neat, even though he came there as a young man, that's was Pat the land there. And it took him a few years to get the money all together and to buy it, so we probably will have to change the date on that one to 1871 when they finally moved in there. That's
Yeah, it was 1871 is the
yeah,
date
when they
it's in
finally
here.
moved in, yeah, not 65, yeah.
That was
Yeah.
when he came back to the area.
Yeah, she fell in love with the place where the stagecoach had come down, and the spring where they had watered it, and the grasslands, and she said, I gotta have this place, you know. And he did, he bought it.
Okay, this was taken before the dam was built, and this is like 13 years later, and you can see the cedars starting to fill in along the wash here and over in this area where the champion black oak is. Was.
It's still there.
It's still there, but is it dead? I just threw this in for the fun of it. As David Chapman was putting his history together of Lake Fayetteville, he ran across this postcard that Doug James got the year he moved to Fayetteville.
71.
This is Route 71. This is the La Huerta's parking lot up there, looking down.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, Doug moved here when I was 5 years old.
Oh.
All right, now we're finally getting to the modern day. This is the map that Byron and Chris Wilson put together when they started talking about the restoration project. And you can see what they've done is they've mapped out 3 sections to do restoration work on that they called Area 1, Area 2, and Area 3, totaling somewhere in excess of 30 acres. They wrote in some numbers there, but when you're cutting trees, it feels like a whole lot more than 30 acres. We started, as I mentioned at the very beginning, we started working with the city to develop a plan to do the prairie management and restoration. FNHA went in and cut down the cedars and removed some of the other woody invasives. And you can see an example here of where the cedars have just been knocked down. The city has been applying herbicides as appropriate to get rid of the Lespedeza cerevisiae, which is a beauty. It's a tough one to get rid of. And they've also done some burning. They burned one section 3 times, another section twice, and the 3rd section once. And here we are back to the slide I started with. And I've talked about all of these things. I haven't talked about the fact that this is a Northwest Arkansas Audubon important bird area. This area, they've been doing systematic bird inventories of the area since the 50s. One of Doug James's students, Bill Beal, that lives down in Fort Smith, started this when he was a student at Doug's in the 50s, and it's continuing to today. And you can see up in this area how the bird population changed as the cedars grew up, where the open field birds disappeared. And now that we've started the cutting up in this area, the same systematic looks at the birds, you're seeing them starting to come back. It's also, the Environmental Center holds the lease on all of this land up in here. And they've been involved in planning and laying out this, and in fact got the city involved in doing some clearing down in here, in this area, so that they can actually use this area in their environmental programs. to show the kids that are in the courses how succession goes in forest. What we're interested in doing is naming it Callie's Prairie, and the interest in naming it really comes from the fact that when you put a name on something, it adds value to it. It helps to brand it. It makes it easier to talk about it. You know, you have Woolsey Wet Prairie, Wilson Springs, and you know, these places have names. It makes it easy to talk about their history. It makes it easy to talk about their natural history. It helps when you're trying to teach people about the value of selective eco-restoration. It helps in promoting Fayetteville's environmental commitment. And the idea of naming it Callie's really comes from the story that Judy told, which, whether it's family folklore or the honest to goodness truth, it is a nice romantic story. It is a nice romantic story, and Callie was an important part of the history of the land. And when you tie in her great connection and the connection to the Butterfield Trail, you have a case that this is in fact probably the name of all the names that you could possibly think of. This is the one you would like to have. And so what we would like to get tonight, if at all possible, is, I guess it's an endorsement or something like that from this group, supporting naming the restoration areas up here. The ones you see here, and we'll be doing a little bit more restoration right in this area, a new area 4, that goes over closer to the trail. There won't be doing any burning over there, but we'll be removing some cedars down there to get over closer to the Butterfield Coach Trail. But naming that area so that this is a name that we can refer to on signs, talking about the restoration project, talking about the history of the area and things like that.
According to our park naming policy, our Parks Board is to table it so we can allow time for public input, and then we'll bring it back next month and let you all vote on it, and then it will go before City Council now for their vote. Okay?
Okay, so I guess we'll table that, but Bob, thank you for the diligence in putting all this together. I think we've had this discussion before about how important it is that when we have new parks and we have new naming opportunities, that we really look into naming them after the folks that have really created this community. So we certainly appreciate it.
Excuse me, but
Yes, ma'am.
there's one piece of information that might be of a little bit of interest, and that is when you mentioned this Albert Gregg as being the postmaster of Shiloh. Well, Mr. Gregg also was a patentee on land on off of Highway 45 at Fayetteville, and he was the brother of Lafayette Gregg. So we basically do have the one big city at that time, and it's at the Springdale line, as you might say. But eventually, for the history, it could certainly be included with including more of the two families.
So are you saying that purple dogs and red dogs are what you're saying? I don't know, but I'm going to buy that.
That's great.
We appreciate Fayetteville Natural Heritage Group, their work on this project throughout the years, and them digging into this history like they did. Very much appreciate that. Yeah, it's very fascinating, and I think the restoration that we're doing out there has been very educational for everybody. Okay, what happened? And it'd be nice for us to get those signs out there so that they can understand exactly the history behind it and how we're restoring this prairie. An educational session on that. So we hope to, Fayetteville Natural Heritage Group has said that they would put in like 25% of the cost for the signs, and the city would put in the remaining amount so that we can place adequate signage on it. So just wanted to update you on that.
We're working with the folks at Woolsey to make sure whatever we do as signage looks very much like theirs.
Like theirs? Okay.
Excellent.
Okay, super. Let's see, what do we have next? Rowing Club presentation.
I don't really have any fancy graphics or anything. I'm Wynn Dickinson, and I row with the club. And I just wanted to give the Parks Board an update because we started rowing a year ago. We got boats on the water last July. And thanks to y'all, we have a place to go to row now. So I just wanted to let you know what's going on. A year ago, we had 17 members in the club. Now we have 39, and we're still growing. We add about a member every month. We row every day. Somebody gets out there every day, sometimes twice a day. We're rowing at 6 in the morning, 3 mornings a week, and then the weekends and some afternoon, evenings. We get along well with the fishermen. I think that's good. People were worried about that to be an issue. We get along well. They kind of hang around the edges of the lake, and we go up and down the middle mostly. And Dolly and her son are buddies of ours, so we forged that alliance, which is nice. And let's see what else I want to tell you. Oh, we've got a boat rack and an oar rack, and we're building another boat rack for singles. We have a lot of interest in people rowing singles because I think as the populations get older and our knees get older and don't work as well, you can row, but you can't run. So we've got a lot of ex-runners that are coming out to row, and they're still fairly independent, so they don't want to have to be tied down to a time, so they want to come out and row their own boat, which is fine. We also have 501c3 status, which is really nice. Now we can raise some funds. That would be nice. We had a Learn to Row Day. 17 people came out to that. And basically we put them in a boat, showed them how to do it, put them on an erg, showed them what that was, and got them in the boat, and with a couple of experienced rowers, and they rowed for a brief row. Our members are ages 20 to 90. Yeah, Coxon is 90 years old, and he can get up and in and out of that boat by himself. He's amazing. I don't know if you know Roy Ron. As the wrong archer, yeah, he's wonderful. He's all of our coach too. Our goals are the improvements to the dock. I don't know if you've been out there, but when we started rowing, the dock had trees growing out of it, and it was like a woody area. And now it's cleared, and it's a little sunken. We'd kind of like to boost it up somehow. I don't know how we're going to do that, but a lot of that styrofoam, that cell stuff, the white volley stuff is floating around, so that's falling apart. So we'd like to, that's one of our goals, is to improve that dock.
That was previously the U of A sailboat ramp.
That was a long
Mr.
time ago.
Nadowski built that, yeah. And then when they quit having that class, it just kind of got abandoned.
Yeah. Nobody was taking
The muskrats used to like to eat all that from the food now, so.
They don't even allow you to use that anymore.
That's right, that's right.
Yeah, it has to be encapsulated, encased in plastic.
Yeah, we've looked at some floats to put under there, but we've got to raise the funds. We keep the geese off the dock pretty well. We have goose fence kind of. They're kind of stupid anyway. It's just a bunch of buckets with a string between them, and they see that string and they go, "Woo, can't land there," which is good because goose poop is a problem on all docks for rowers. Another goal that we have is to start a youth program. We'd like to get the kids involved in rowing. It's a great team sport, and and they train. They don't just do boat training; they do running and lifting, and it's for the full body. So I think it'd be great to get youth involved. And eventually we'd like to put a boathouse out there. I know it has to go through all the different channels and all that stuff, but that's the long-term plan, is to get a boathouse. That would be really nice. So, yeah. Our rowing, because the park is only open from sunset to 30 minutes before sundown, as the days get shorter, our rowing hours are limited. So, that's a problem too. We'd like our own key, but I know y'all aren't going to give us one.
It's security of all of the boats out there, the 54, 55 boat stalls that we have out there to secure that.
And we've tried to think of a way to come and throw the boat in the water and stuff. But
and security of your boat. Also.
Yeah, they actually had a break-in out there this weekend. Yeah. So anyway, that's the update. We really appreciate your support and letting us do this out there, because we're all having a good time, and we're bringing more people into the rowing community, so it's great. So thank you.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate the update. Okay, do we have any other business, Connie, that we need to slide in for?
I have just a couple. At Lake Fayetteville and Lake Sequoia, as you know, they are widening Lake Fayetteville, Highway 265. And they're also going to be widening Highway 16 East that goes by Lake Sequoia. Both of these park areas are within what we call an Arkansas Parks and Tourism Outdoor Recreation Grant area. That means we have in the past years have received grant money in those parks. And once you agree to accept the grant money, then you pretty much say forever this land would be donated, would be dedicated as outdoor recreation for perpetuity. Well, with the widening of the state highway, they needed some more land in order to widen it. So at Lake Fayetteville, we've already worked with the highway department, and they're going to give, we had to give them 0.79 acres. So whenever you do take away from your park boundary acreage, then you have to do a conversion in order to get your number back up to have the number of acreage in what you promised when you received that grant.
And who did we receive the grant from?
Arkansas Parks and Tourism, and it goes back to a federal grant. Yeah. So
we got money from the state, and we gave them land back for their highway, and now we got to give them land back to the state.
Now we've got work to
Okay.
satisfy.
I'm just trying to follow
You
this.
got it.
I'm sorry. Yeah, that's, and
Okay.
I should have brought a map with it, but I'm just trying to give you all some background to what's happening. So in order for us to get land back, you cannot already have it they've kind of changed some rules, but you cannot have it in a park boundary already, and it cannot currently be used for recreational purposes. So that pretty much takes out most of our parkland, okay? So we know that we needed to, we wanted to build the trail, the remaining 1 mile at Lake Fayetteville on the south side. And in order to do that, we had those big, deep ravines and all to go through. So Matt started looking at it, saying, hey, if we go to the south a little bit, then if we can get some land from the south owner, then that will allow us not to have such high cost in building the bridges. So we did pursue that. We got 4.5 acres from the landowner to the south, who actually donated it to us. They choose to remain anonymous in this. And so that will be our land conversion. We were lucky. We'll also have a note to the state that 4.5 acres will also count as the land conversion for the land the highway department needs for Lake Sequoia. We don't know how many acres that's going to take yet. So we're kind of working on that conversion. The land that you replace it with must at least be appraised at the same value, if not more, and you must still have the same recreational value as what the land that you gave up in it. So that's kind of the story. We're working on that currently, and just wanted to apprise you of that. So, any questions?
If they say if the Sequoia project's larger, can we bank land for?
Yes, they will allow us to bank land. So if it is, for a while it looked like it was only going to be like maybe a quarter of an acre. The nice thing is Matt had been working with them, and we had been looking at it. They were going to leave the old bridge up for us because they were not going to put a bike lane on the bridge. They were going to over the one to the west.
Mm-hmm.
A bike lane on the West Fork. But on the Middle Fork at Lake Sequoia, they were not going to put a bike lane. So we thought, okay, can you leave up the old bridge then so we can at least have something for bicyclists? And now they have decided that they're re-looking at it to redesign it and to put a bike lane on it. So time has paid off, I think, on this project. And sidewalks, yes. So we'll tie in Lake Sequoia to our city's trail plan. So very positive and all, but it's just a lot of paperwork and a lot of doing. And
Connie's doing it, thanks.
Better you than us, Connie.
No. But Highway Department, I'm working between Highway Department and Parks and Tourism and Matt. So between all of us, we're getting it done.
So do we sell the land to the state?
That's the other thing that's interesting. Our 3 lakes were purchased with water and sewer funds as a second water supply for our city. So it's in an enterprise fund. So yes, the state did have to pay for that 0.79 acres and whatever Lake Sequoia they come up with.
One more loop.
One more, yes.
But for us
crazy.
to utilize that 4.5 acres, and of course Matt and the trail crew are chomping at the bits to start on that trail, which we all are too. We had to do a waiver with the nation, from the Arkansas Parks and Tourism, it goes up to the National Park Service level. They have final approval of all this. So we had to ask for a waiver for us to go on and use that property for both purposes and go ahead and receive the deed. Normally you can't even receive the deed till they approve it. So it's been very interesting. So just when you all know the confusion I'm in.
We'll get there.
Yes. Okay. We'll get there.
Again, better you than.
And I guess the other one, do you want to talk about tennis just real quickly? We go before council tomorrow, tennis, and
Yeah, so whenever it was on consent last week, it got removed from consent, so it'll be on the agenda tomorrow night and open for discussion. So anybody that wants to come out and discuss,
if
we'd
possible,
love to have you.
if anyone would like to represent the Parks Board and come before them giving you all's opinion, that would be great. So that the council knows where our Parks Board came from and that we've had public input into this. Anybody
What time is
interested?
it, 5:30?
It starts at 6 o'clock.
At 6?
The consent agenda goes first, and then there will be one unfinished item under old business, and then we're the first on new business. So it should be, I'm thinking 6:10, 6:50. I mean, it could be really, just depends on how fast they read all those consent items. So 6:15 or so.
Okay, anything else?
It's busy.
Sounds
Tomorrow night, don't forget, I guess you'll go over that, the Meadow Valley Trail opening.
Wednesday night.
Oh, Wednesday
Wednesday
night.
night.
Yep, Wednesday night at
5:30.
5:30
At Agri Park.
at Park.
Pavilion.
We'll have watermelon, and cookies, so couldn't be sweeter. Great trail. Matt and the trail crew did an awesome job on it. We walked it the other day, and it's wonderful. People are really utilizing it. And I love that some of these apartment complexes and housing additions were really connecting into a trail system with it. So, and it's actually given a connection to the west side of town, where I live.
That's good.
And
And
the
just to let you know, there is a piece of this trail that's gonna go under 540. We
Right.
haven't built it yet, and that's because we're held up in permitting, and actually have been for 2 years now. So it's not easy to go under an interstate, it turns out. Trail.
I see.
But we are very close. On Friday, I turned in the 7th round of resubmittals for that permit. So and we think we've covered everything. But sometimes they send some new stuff we hadn't thought of yet or seen. So
Well, good luck with that, because I have had a lot of questions about whether or not it's gonna go under there, so that's good information to know.
we're still full bore on it, and as soon as we get the permit, we're gonna kind of split crews. They're gonna be working at Lake Fayetteville, but we're gonna pull them over there and have them finish that too, so that they can do both.
Great.
I guess the other thing you'll be seeing, the transportation division and some parks people working on the trail from our bad flood back in April last year. We're working on some FEMA project to fill in some of the sides. So you're gonna see some big equipment out there and some rocks and stuff, so bear with us. And I think the Frisco Trail repair is going very well.
Going very well, yeah.
You have an update
They're
on
getting
that?
close. They're getting their way out of the creek, and turned out really nice. If you drive down Gregg, you can kind of see it. We use these what's called gabion baskets, but put natural stone in there, and they stacked it. This contractor actually did like a dry stack with it, and so it almost, if you can kind of not look at the chain link fence kind of part of it, it looks like a dry stack wall. So it's 4 levels up, and then we'll be rebuilding the block wall that used to sit there.
What was our total on that again? Somebody asked me the other day.
187,000.
That's less than I thought, actually.
Pretty big project, though.
Yeah.
Fortunately, we'll be reimbursed for most of that.
Yeah.
And we have a really good contractor doing that. The city crews aren't working on that. That's a hired contractor on that.
Great. Okay.
I think maybe 3 more weeks to.
Oh, really? That quick?
Yeah, once they get up, they're gonna get it capped off. Be done after.
I do have to give a plug. Thursday's the last Gully Park concert. Chase Missy, one of the best friends around here. So come join us 7 to 9.
You know, there's only like 3 more things on upcoming events.
Oh, I'm
if you want
sorry.
to just cover that.
I'm so excited that I'll make sure you cover them all.
Okay, so let's see. August 9th, we have Chase Missy at the Gully Park concert. Looks like it's going to cool down a little bit, I think, this week, at least 10 degrees. August 20th, we have fall adult softball season beginning. The 24th, we have fall youth soccer kickoff celebration at Lewis Soccer Complex. And the 25th, we have soccer beginning, youth soccer begins. 28th, we have Yvonne Richardson Center celebration with Coach Mike Anderson at 6 p.m. at the Fayetteville Town Center. And tickets are available at the YRCC down on Rock Street.
And those are, they're $50 for an individual, or it's $500 for a table that seats 8.
Okay. Sure.
There is one missing item.
All right, what is it?
The swimming pool closes down on Sunday, and then we're going to be draining it and
Bummer.
starting our renovation. So that will be exciting.
Can we just close it when it gets to 80 degrees?
I know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I assume that most of the lifeguards are going back to school. That's the main reason.
Yeah.
That's what I thought.
That was one of the budget cut things that we did years ago, and it is saved that the number of people that we actually have the last part of the summer, it's just people are getting busy for school, and we just don't have the numbers to support it. We'll go in the whole, I don't know what our number will be this year, but anywhere from $80,000 to $100,000 a year is what we go in the hole with providing that service to our citizens. So.
Great.
Hey, Steve, real quick.
Yeah.
Last time, before we left, after our 3-hour tennis conversation, the woman she sent the email to Allison about the playground equipment falling apart. I did go out, played around, had a great time. I actually went over to the office. They have a Roush Coleman office there. Went in, asked the lady if they've ever had any complaints or anything. No, never had anyone complaining about being injured or no accidents, anything like that. So, just let you know.
Excellent.
Thanks for checking.
Dude, I enjoyed that immensely. I don't know who designed that playground, but bravo.
You can get busy on it.
Okay, well, if we don't have anything else, I would move that we adjourn. Second. A motion and second. I think we're adjourned. Thank you.
Good job.